What if I told you that the hot room in your house, the one that never cools down no matter what you do, has nothing wrong with it? Not the room, not the vents, not the air conditioner. The problem is something else entirely. Something invisible. Something that has been quietly stealing cool air away from that room and sending it somewhere it was never needed. Every single day. For years. And the fix costs $15. Now I know how that sounds. You may have already spent money on this problem. Called an HVAC company. Had a technician come out. Maybe you were told your system needs more refrigerant. Or your ducts need sealing. Or, and this is the one that really costs you, your unit is undersized and you need a whole new system. Maybe some of that was true. But in the majority of American homes, especially homes built after 1980, there is something happening inside your ductwork that nobody explained to you. Something so simple that when I tell you what it is, you are going to sit back and think, why has nobody ever mentioned this to me before? By the end of this video, you are going to understand three things. What is actually causing your hot room, and the real physics behind it that almost nobody explains properly. What the $15 fix is, exactly what to buy, and step by step how to do it yourself. And the thing about closing vents that could actually damage your system if you do it wrong, because this is the part that almost every other video leaves out completely. But first, I need to tell you something about how your air conditioning system actually works. Because most people have it wrong, and once you see it clearly, everything else is going to fall right into place. Your HVAC system is not just a machine that makes cold air and pushes it into your home. It is a closed loop, a circuit, like the electrical wiring in your walls. It only works properly when everything flows in a complete circle. Here is how that loop is supposed to work. Your air handler, the unit in your closet, basement, or attic, pulls air in through the return vents. It cools that air. Then it pushes the cooled air out through the supply vents, the ones in your floors, walls, or ceilings, into every room. That air travels through the room, warms up slightly, and returns back through the return vents to start the whole cycle again. When the loop works the way it is designed to, every room gets the right amount of cool air. The system is balanced. The whole house feels comfortable. But in most homes, that loop is not balanced. And this is where the hot room comes from. Think of your duct system like a river with tributaries. The main trunk line runs from the air handler and branches off into smaller ducts that feed each room. Here is the thing about rivers and about air pressure, which follows the same rules. The tributaries closest to the source get the most flow. The ones at the far end of the system, the ones at the end of the longest run, get what is left over. The room at the end of your duct run almost always gets less airflow. This is not a flaw in your particular system. It is basic physics. Pressure drops over distance. It happens in every home. And then there is the second problem, somewhere else in your house, probably a small room, a bathroom, a hallway near the air handler. There are vents that are wide open and receiving far more cool air than that room will ever need. That air is being wasted, and while it is being wasted there, the room that actually needs it is sitting warm and uncomfortable. This is what is happening in your home. Cool air is being delivered to rooms that do not need it, while the room you are worried about gets the leftovers. And that is exactly what the $15 fix addresses. What you are buying is called an adjustable register damper, or in some cases, a magnetic vent cover or a vent deflector. They all work on the same principle. They let you control how much air flows out of each individual vent in your home. Right now, most of your vents are probably wide open. That is how they came when the house was built. Nobody went room by room and adjusted them to match the actual needs of each space. They were just left open, all of them, equally. The $15 fix is this. You partially close the vents in the rooms that are already comfortable, not fully, and I will explain in a moment why fully closing them is something you must never do. Just partially, maybe halfway. When you restrict the airflow to rooms that have more than enough, the pressure inside your duct system increases slightly, and that extra pressure pushes more air down the longer runs. More air reaches the rooms at the far end. More air reaches the second floor bedroom. More air reaches the room above the garage that has been unbearable every summer. You are not adding anything to your system. You are not changing any equipment. You are simply redirecting what your system is already producing, away from where it is not needed and toward where it is. That is the $15 fix. And it works because it addresses the actual problem instead of just treating the symptom. But here is something I need to tell you clearly, because this is the part that other videos skip, and skipping it can cause real damage to your system. Closing vents can hurt your air conditioner if you do it wrong. When you close vents, You raise the pressure inside your ducts. A small increase in pressure. That is exactly what we want. It is what sends more air to the problem room. But if you close too many vents, the pressure builds too high. Your air handler has to work against it. The blower motor strains. And in air conditioning mode, the evaporator coil, the part that actually makes the air cold, can freeze solid, literally ice over. Because when airflow drops below a certain threshold, the coil gets too cold, and moisture in the air freezes right onto it. A frozen coil means your AC stops cooling entirely, and if it happens repeatedly, it can shorten the life of your equipment significantly. So here is the rule. And please remember this. Never close more than 2 or 3 vents in a house with 12 or more registers, and never close any vent fully. Just partially restrict it, about halfway. 2 vents partially closed, perfectly fine. 6 vents fully closed, potential equipment damage. This is why some HVAC technicians say never close your vents. They are not entirely wrong. They are just not giving you the full picture. The nuance is the difference between a helpful fix and a harmful one. Now, if you are finding this useful, if you are starting to think about your own home and which rooms have been driving you crazy every summer, go ahead and hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second and it helps this video reach more people who need to hear it. And if you want to keep getting honest, practical information about your home, subscribe. New videos every single week. All right, let me walk you through exactly what to do, step by step. Step 1. Walk through your home and find every vent. There are 2 kinds of vents in your house, and they do opposite things. Supply vents blow air out. These are the ones you can feel air coming from. Return vents pull air back in. These usually have no louvers, just a plain grill, and they often have a filter behind them. Make a simple mental note, or even a quick sketch of where each one is. Step 2. Find the overserved rooms. These are the rooms that feel perfectly comfortable, or even a little too cold, especially rooms that are close to the air handler, small hallways, bathrooms, a room right next to the utility closet. These rooms are getting more than their fair share. Step 3. Partially close the vents in those overserved rooms. Most registers already have a small lever or dial on the side, a built-in damper. Slide it or turn it to about halfway. If your registers do not have that feature, an adjustable replacement register from the hardware store costs about $8 to $15 and installs in minutes. You just pull out the old one and drop the new one in. Step 4. And this one is something almost nobody talks about. Check what is happening with your return air. Go to your hot room. Close the door the way it would be closed at night. Then take a thin piece of paper and slide it toward the gap under the door. If the paper gets gently pulled toward the door, sucked toward that small gap, that means air is returning from the room the way it should be. Good. If nothing happens, or the paper pushes away from the door, that room has a return air problem. Conditioned air is going in, but has no path to get back out. It builds up pressure. New cool air stops flowing in efficiently. The room gets stuffy and warm, even with the vent wide open. This is one of the most common hidden causes of a hot room, and almost nobody mentions it. The fix is simpler than you might think. If you have a carpenter, or if you are comfortable with basic tools yourself, you can have the bottom of the bedroom door trimmed to leave about a 1-inch gap above the floor. That gap gives the air a return path even when the door is closed. It makes a surprisingly significant difference. The other option is called a transfer grill, a small pass-through vent installed in the wall above the door, connecting the bedroom to the hallway. Air can circulate back to the main return without the door having to be open. Transfer grills cost $15 to $30 and take about an hour to install. They are one of the most underrated and least discussed solutions in home comfort, and they work beautifully. Step 5. Give your system 30 minutes and then check. A simple thermometer in each room is all you need. Give everything time to settle. You may need to make small adjustments. Open one vent a little more, close another a little more. This is not a one-time set it and forget it process. It is more like tuning a musical instrument. You make an adjustment, you listen, and you fine-tune from there. Most people find the right balance in 1 or 2 sessions. Now I want to tell you something that helps explain why your house has this problem in the first place. And it involves your thermostat. Most homes have one thermostat controlling the entire house. One sensor, one decision maker for every room on every floor. Here is the problem with that. The thermostat is almost always on the first floor. When the air conditioner runs, it cools the first floor. The thermostat reaches the target temperature and tells the system to shut off. Meanwhile, the second floor, where heat rises and where the duct runs are longest, has barely started to cool down. HVAC engineers sometimes describe a single-zone system controlling a two-story house this way. It is like trying to air condition a car by putting the only vent in the trunk. The front seats are sweltering while the trunk is perfectly comfortable. And the thermostat in the trunk keeps telling the system everything is fine. Research has found that second floors average 8 to 10 degrees warmer than first floors in summer in two-story homes without any zoning. 8 to 10 degrees. That is not a small difference. That is the difference between a comfortable night's sleep and lying awake at 2 in the morning with a fan pointed directly at your face. The $15 trick helps this significantly. It is not a perfect solution for a two-story home. The perfect solution involves multiple thermostats and motorized dampers in the ductwork, which is a much larger investment. But most people find that proper vent balancing gets them 70 to 80% of the way there, and 70 to 80% of the way there is a very different summer than where they started. Now, I want to be straightforward with you about something, because I think honesty matters more than making everything sound simple. Vent balancing does not fix duct leaks. The EPA estimates that the average American home loses 25 to 40% of conditioned air through leaks in the ductwork before it ever reaches the room. If your ducts are significantly leaky, that is a separate problem that requires professional attention, and vent balancing will not fix a system that is genuinely undersized for your home. If your air conditioner is simply too small to cool the square footage it is serving, no amount of vent adjustment will fully compensate for that. But here's what I want you to know. In most homes, most ordinary homes with ordinary duct systems, those expensive problems are not actually the main issue. The main issue is simply that nobody ever balanced the airflow. Nobody ever walked room by room and asked, is this vent serving this room properly, or is it wasting air that another room desperately needs? That conversation costs $15 and an afternoon. The HVAC company's version of that conversation costs thousands. And the reason they rarely suggest the $15 version, when a technician drives to your house, spends an hour looking at your system, and then tells you to partially close 2 vents, there is no way to write that up as a billable service call. There is no part to order, no labor to charge for, no equipment to install. An adjustable register is $12 at the hardware store. There is simply no business model built around telling you that. So here is my question for you, and I genuinely want to know. Is there a room in your home that has been too hot for years? A room that every HVAC technician who ever came to your house just kind of shrugged at? A second-floor bedroom? A room above the garage? A space at the far end of the house that never quite gets there no matter how long the system runs? Drop it in the comments below. Tell me which room it is and what you have already tried. I read every single comment. And I have a feeling the answers are going to sound very familiar to a lot of people watching this. If this video gave you something real, something you can actually do this week for $15, please hit that like button. It helps more than you know. And subscribe if you want to keep getting this kind of practical, honest information about your home. Thank you so much for watching. Stay comfortable, and I will see you in the next one.